G'day and welcome to Wellywood Wargaming. My name is Damon, and in this video I'll be giving you all of the information and tools that you can use to create your own Necromunda campaign. Now before I get started, please do like, share, subscribe and check out the Patreon as well if you'd like to support me further. Now ever since 95 I've been playing Necromunda, and quite often I've been running my own campaigns as what we call an arbitrator. Now for those of you who haven't played much Necromunda, the arbitrator's role is to organize all of the players in their group and act as the sort of DM, sort of dungeon master for your Necromunda campaigns. Now Necromunda is a little bit more narrative based and a little bit more of a sort of role play game, I suppose, compared to some of the other Games Workshop games out there, and that's really what I love most about it, is the storytelling, the narrative, and the ability to really make a fun and interactive campaign for everybody that's playing in your campaigns. What I'm going to do here for you today is show you one of my campaign documents, the one that I've been working on recently for the beginning of 2025. This one has not been played, but what I've done over the years and over the amount of experience that I've gathered from my players through trial and error and through playtesting lots of ideas is created a campaign here that I think I'm very confident will run very well, will keep people engaged, and will just be an awesome experience for everybody involved. Now, if you go and look at some of my campaign guide videos, I've done videos on most of the campaigns in Necromunda, and there are many to choose from. However, you don't have to stick to these. Necromunda is one of those games where you really can tailor it to suit your own needs and the needs of your group of players as well. And this is really based on feedback and, like I said, trial and error. It's really important, just as a disclaimer here, to constantly get feedback from your players as an arbitrator. Constructive criticism goes a long way. So always communicate well with your players and you will have successful and happy times playing Necromunda. To begin with, you want to create a strong narrative for your campaigns. I think this is really important and crucial part of the process, because this is what keeps your players engaged. If they feel like they're part of the story, it really goes a long way to everybody's enjoyment in this, and is very gratifying as an arbitrator as well when you get to the end of a campaign and people really want more. Now always communicate with your players and take constructive criticism and feedback wherever possible, because this is how you keep on tailoring your campaigns to make them even better each time you play them. First things first, you want to create a campaign document. You can do this in Google Docs or Word or whatever you like, but keep it nice and simple. This is where you can start sort of drafting up some ideas, and you can keep adding and taking things away and adjusting it as you see fit. And this is something that you're going to want to share with all of the players in your campaign before the campaign starts, so that they get a good idea of the setting, the rules, and what's in store for them, and how much fun they're actually going to have in this campaign. My campaign documents always start with a short story. Now you don't have to be a particularly creative person to do this. What I tend to do, because I have very little time in life at the moment, you know, having a full-time job and a kid and doing all this Necromunda content, what I tend to do is I utilize AI. So I use ChatGPT to create a short story. Now, while I'm inputting all the data here, I will create the setting. What I usually do is find one of the hives in Necromunda. Hell, it doesn't even have to be Necromunda. It could be any Imperial hive world in the 40k setting. What I tend to do, though, is find somewhere on the map that I'd like to explore further. In this case, we're going to take a look at Hive Mortis. Hive Mortis. Once a bustling industrial titan, has fallen into rot and ruin. A plague, which claimed over 20 million lives, decimated its population, leaving a city of death in its wake. The great houses, once masters of production, now vie for control of a far darker resource, the dead. In the wake of their losses, the city's economy has shifted to harvesting the dead for chemicals, narcotics and bioweapons. But the aftermath of the plague has birthed new threats. Mutants, twisted by the plague and the corruption of chaos, now roam the underlevels while reanimated corpses shuffle through the broken streets. Worse, whispers speak of a dark ancient artifact buried beneath the hive, an object of immense power that could control the dead and reshape the city in the image of chaos. There's a tiny little excerpt of a short story that I've done just by inputting some of my own stuff, as well as a few keywords, and just drawn from all sorts of sources, stuck it into ChatGPT and then edited down a sort of short story that I really like the sound of. So this is the setting here, and I'm not going to go into too much detail on the rest of it because there's 1 or 2 pages here. You don't want to go too crazy, but this creates a nice buzz and narrative, a bit of fluff for your players to really invest and get ready for. The first section that we go into after this little short story, just to create the setting there, is the campaign basics. This is where we explain how the campaign actually runs. What I've got here, the first bullet point, is this campaign will be managed on yaktribe.com. This is where we track, adjust, and manage gangs and the overall campaign as a whole. If you need any help with Yaktribe, please ask the arbitrator. So Yaktribe is absolutely the best tool that you can use out there for Necromunda. I highly recommend you use it if you haven't already. Just go and check out Yaktribe, the website. You can manage campaigns in there. You can do lots of customization and editing, which I've actually done some videos on as well. But this is a great place for all of your players to create their gangs in there and for you to run your campaigns accordingly. The next bullet point in the campaign basics section is Discord will be the main chat channel and place where games can be organized each week. Other key components and notifications relating to the campaign will also be managed in Discord under the Hive Australis channel. We will also make all post and pre-game dice rolls in the dice tower, including trading post and territory generation, etc. So it's really important, once you've got Yaktribe figured out and all your gangs are in there and your campaign is ready, to have a place where all of your players can chat and organize games. This keeps everything very much alive. It keeps the bubble, it keeps the fluff, it keeps the fun going. And I think it's really crucial to use something like Discord or WhatsApp or even a Facebook group if you really like to do that as well. I think Discord is great because I've put a bot in there, or Selby has, shout out to Selby for putting a bot in there, which acts as a dice tower. So all of those rolls, post-battle, pre-battle, level ups, things like that, are in there for everybody to see. And I, as an arbitrator, can track it all as well. So make sure people aren't cheating or doing anything naughty. The next section is all about gang creation, and I've got some special rules in here that I've written for this particular campaign. The first bullet point is as follows. The next part is gang creation, and I've got a few bullet points in here that I'm going to go through now. The first one is when founding a gang, you must first choose which side you'll be on for the duration of the campaign. The side that is influenced by the ruinous powers of chaos, or the side of those touched by the holy light of the Emperor that wish to cleanse the fallen hive of its taint. So what I've done here is I've pulled from the Underhells campaign, where we have the Archeo aligned gangs and we have the Malstrain aligned gangs. I really liked the way that worked in campaign for the last one that we did. I thought that was a very successful way of doing things. You had 2 sides. Hopefully all your players align fairly equally along this line. You have maybe 4 or 5 chaos aligned players and you have 4 or 5 goodies, I suppose. That was really equal split in the last campaign, and I hope to do that here as well by just sort of like suggesting that people should maybe, if they're playing an evil gang like Corpse Grinders, then they're obviously going to be on the baddie side of things. If they're playing Enforcers, then they're probably going to be on the goodie side of things. When this is decided, the gang must then choose a Chaos God to worship for the duration of the campaign and immediately apply all Chaos Corrupted gang rules to their gang. Note that any gang except Corpse Grinders, GSC, and Malstrain can be corrupted in this campaign. So I've just made a point there of saying that Corpse Grinder cults, Malstrain gangs, and of course Genestealer cult gangs cannot be corrupted. They are still baddies and outlaws, but they cannot be corrupted in this sense. On the flip side of this, you can become a Crusading gang using the full Crusading gang rules from the Vaults of Temenos book. Chaos affiliate gangs are always outlaws. So what I've done here is drawn another tool from a different campaign system. Here, the second book in the Aranthian succession, we see the use of the Crusading gang rules, and we're going to get into that in a bit more detail, but I love the idea of having Chaos gangs and Crusading holy gangs in this equation. The next thing you want to do is decide on the credit amount for starting gangs. Generally speaking, most campaigns start with 1,000 credits, and this is no different here. This is an Underhive campaign, so I'm only including 1,000 credits for your starting gang max. The next thing is WYSIWYG. WYSIWYG, I feel, is very important. In case you don't know what that means, it's what you see is what you get. This means that the model's equipment that's on the actual model physically is what they've actually got in the game. The plasma cannon can't exactly hide in someone's trousers, or can it? I think this is really important, and generally speaking, I always put a little point about this, being that WYSIWYG is usually upheld in my campaigns, except for grenades, holstered pistols, and other concealed war gear options, sometimes in the case of something like a knife or similar. Here, I've also put an extra special rule in here just to limit things going too crazy, because I do feel that heavy weapons and special weapons can, add to just a bit of silliness overall in a campaign if there are too many of them. So what we've got here is a maximum of 2 of heavy weapons and special weapons total per gang at any time. That means that you can have up to 2 special weapons or heavy weapons total. I'm also including house subplots here, as I really do like the mechanics for subplots. Each game you can use a subplot to sort of get a little sort of side quest, I suppose, in your battles. This adds an extra level of dynamic interest, and I just think it's a really good thing to throw into my campaigns. It doesn't overcomplicate things too much, but it does give you alternate objectives in your battles. The next thing, and this is something new that I'm adding to this campaign that I'm actually really excited about. So far in Necromunda, with the rules anyway, Dramatis Personae and hired guns don't see a huge amount of play. It's very rare that you're actually going to have the money to actually be able to afford one of these guys. So what I've done here is created an interesting mechanic so that every single gang gets to use one of the fantastic Forge World models that are on offer, and also the amazing rules that they bring to the game as well. In addition, each gang may add a single named Dramatis Personae / hired gun or agent character to their roster for free at creation and for the duration of the campaign, and they still count towards the gang rating. This fighter may never succumb to injury and is always counted as out cold. They may not gain XP or new weapons and war gear and remain unchanged throughout the campaign. Normal rules apply for outlaw or lawful, and the following tier rules now apply. Tier 0, no hangers-on, brutes, alliances, or house favors available all campaigns. So tier 0 really are the cream of the crop. If you've got one of these guys, you don't get other benefits. Tier 1, you may have no brutes or alliances all campaign. Tier 2, you can have a maximum of 1 brute or hanger-on max all campaign. And Tier 3, unrestricted access to brutes, hangers-on, etc. as normal. The last part of this section is another little special rule that I've got in here as well, and this is a great incentive to get your players more immersed in the experience of the campaign, and that is as follows. If you write a little backstory, just a few paragraphs, again, you can use ChatGPT for something like this, but if you write a little backstory about your gang before you start the campaign, you get 3 rep for it. If you don't do this, you don't get the 3 rep. Also, if your gang is fully painted and based, you get an extra 2 rep at the start of the campaign as well. So you'll start with 5 rep just for creating a backstory and painting your gangs fully as well. I just think this is a great way for everybody to be on an even keel and to have, it really irks me when I see a bunch of grey plastic on the table. I like to have fully painted miniatures and fully painted terrain as well. I just think it further creates that immersion that you really want all your players to be involved with. The next section is about gang tactics cards. Now, lots of people do these in different ways, and the way that I do this is by building a deck of tactics cards. Now, 10 tactics cards can be chosen from all of the available tactics cards, and the omitted ones I've included here are A History of Violence, Dangerous Footing, and Blood Money. These 3 cards are a little bit broken and just aren't very fun, so I've disallowed these from the whole campaign. All the other ones are fair game though, so you pick your own deck of 10 cards based on what you have access to, and then every single game, regardless of the scenario, you get 2 of these at random. That is it. The next section is a pre-game inducement sort of thing, which I've actually taken from Blood Bowl in a way. And what I like here is that it's a kind of balancing mechanic for the gangs. If someone has a particularly low crew rating, they get extra stuff to sort of make up the difference here. So the first thing you do at the beginning of the battle is you determine the crew rating. Note this is not the gang rating. That can be quite different. But if you've got a few fighters out, this really will affect your crew rating. The way that you find out what your crew rating is just add up your gang rating and subtract the fighters that are missing from that. This helps mitigate the uphill struggle that the lower crew rating gang will get. So for a tactics card per 100 credits, underdog card per 200 credits, and a custom hive scum per 100 credits with 50 credits of weapons and war gear. So these are all available. And notice I have changed the hive scum cost here. I've made them slightly more expensive, but I do think this kind of works quite well. I've done this before many times. Then we move on to the campaign phases. Now what I've done here is created 3 campaign phases. The first phase is the exploration phase, and this is 4 cycles or games. Also 4 campaign weeks. So each cycle equates to a campaign week, and you can have a maximum of 4 games in this first exploration phase. Then we have a 2-week or 2-cycle period of downtime, followed by the revelation phase, which is 4 cycles or 4 campaign weeks. The next section talks about territory. So what we've done here, instead of territory, unlike other Necromunda campaign systems, territories are replaced with the relics from the Vaults of Temenos book. Each gang will start with 1 randomly determined relic in the first phase, and gangs will compete to gain as many relics they can and will fight over unclaimed relics. In the second phase, gangs will fight for each other's relics. In addition, no matter how many relics a gang has, only 1 may be utilized in terms of its effects, boons, and income in each battle. The gang may choose freely each time they use a relic they feel best fits the game or outcome. So here what I've done is put a cap on the amount of earnings that you can get, because I do feel that Necromunda has a problem with too much money in it. Not only are you getting the scenario rewards, but if you have too many of these relics or territories in a Dominion campaign, say, you just get too much money, and it's just no fun as the gangs just blow out too much too quickly. I think this is a nice way of doing it. You may only use 1 of those relics, so you've really got to choose carefully what you want to use. Do you want more income, or do you want more interesting boons and stuff? That's for you to decide. The next little thing that I've thrown in is a combination of the Uprising campaign and also Apocrypha Necromunda. What I've done here is included the mutations list here to represent the horrific and twisted environment. All fighters treat the mutations list as a secondary skill set for the duration of the campaign. So this is really interesting, using the cool mutations list that you get in Apocrypha Necromunda. Go check that out if you haven't already. Also, the festering wounds are in effect from the Uprising campaign, so you can get some nasty mutations and slightly different injuries in this campaign too. Now to talk about the varying phases. First, we have downtime in the middle here, just to explain what that does. Firstly, your fighters recover, captives are all returned, experienced Juves and prospects are promoted, and then you get 250 credits, which may be spent on new fighters, weapons and war gear, hangers-on and brutes, as well as house list items for the rest of the gang. The gang's credit stash may also be added to this amount during downtime for the same purposes. So that's where you get to spend a little bit of money, go crazy, and just buy some new stuff for your gang. A maximum of 2 side battles may then be played between each gang during downtime. You don't get any rep or creds, but you will earn XP and injuries accordingly. So sometimes these side battles will be special one-off narrative multiplayer arbitrator scenarios. In fact, most often during downtime, at least 1 of those campaign weeks, I will run a multiplayer game for everybody to get involved in, and that's usually something that goes along with the fluff and the narrative of that campaign. The first phase, the exploration phase, all gangs have a restricted access to the trading post with a +2 to the rarity of all goods. And in the last phase, the revelation phase, the same applies, but it is a +5 rarity to all goods as well. So this is an interesting thing, and again, something that I've taken as an idea from the Underhells campaign actually, and just modified it slightly and made it a bit less harsh. I think this is a nice thing to do, just limiting the access as you get later on through the campaign to the trading post. Another little thing here, and this is from the Book of Peril, is that the bad zones are involved here as well, again to represent the hideous place that we're going to in Hive Mortis. Due to the unwelcoming environment, the bad zone environments and events should be used in each battle during the campaign. So what I've got here is the deck of bad zone environments and cards, and these will be used as they're supposed to be used, really, and just add a little bit more flavor to your battles during this campaign. Another few things that I've taken from the Underhells campaign, which I do particularly love. I think the Underhells campaign is excellent. The first one is roaming horrors. Now, normally with an Underhells campaign, your roaming horrors consist of Malstrain forces. However, I've changed this to make it D3+3 plague zombies, using the rules for brainleaf zombies in every game. Now, roaming horrors in this way, in every scenario, are added, and roaming horrors are added after deployment in turns starting with the player with priority and must be placed at least 6 inches and out of line of sight of any fighter. Roaming horrors may grant XP and kill points as normal. So this is a nice thing to add. I do feel like in the Underhells campaign, for some reason, every time I was rolling 66s and a Malstrain Prime would turn up in nearly every single game. I'm sure my players can attest to that, but the amount of actual Gene Stealers we had was ridiculous. Sure, I could keep it Malstrain, but I just feel like the Plague Zombies are a little bit less powerful, but still something that you have to worry about in every game that you're going to play. The other thing that I'm going to include here as well from the Underhells campaign, and something that I really loved actually with a minor modification, is the data crystal stack. So in every single game, data crystal stacks are always added to every scenario with the use of a model or token to represent them in the game. Unless otherwise stated in a scenario, data stacks are placed by each player on the board in a place of their choosing, but these must be at least 12 inches from any board edge. Data stacks can be harvested by performing the harvest basic action. A successful intelligence check adds a crystal to the fighter's card, preferably in the form of a token. Each data stack may only be harvested once per battle. So there is a limit on this. You can only get a maximum of 2 if you get really lucky. However, I've changed the rules on what they actually do a little bit here as well. Each fighter may only carry 1 data crystal at a time, and should the fighter go out of action, they will drop the crystal from their position. A fighter who ends their activation with a crystal in this way may claim it for free. Using the crystal though, you may sell each data crystal in the gang stash for D3 times 10 credits, or roll on the following table to unlock the crystal. On a 1, the fighter of your choice may gain D3 XP. On a 2 to 3, a fighter of your choice gains a random primary skill. On a 4 to 5, a fighter of your choice gains a random secondary skill. Note mutations will be there as well. And on a 6, a fighter of your choice can gain any skill from any skill list, including weird powers. So I've opened this up. You can get finesse skills, you can get savagery skills, you can get anything here. You can even get, tech skills or whatever if you really want. But I've also included weird powers in here as well, just for an added level of fun. So this means that you've got an incentive here to try and get these data stacks, because these data crystals, because this really will open things up and make things more random and more fun. After that, I've got a list of all the tiers for the Dramatis Personae that you get access to. You can only have one of these, so where there is a duo of bounty hunters or Dramatis Personae, you'll only get one of them. You can't pick both of them, so you can't have Cal and Scabs. It's one or the other, I'm afraid, but that's what it is. And then I've listed in tiers what you get, and then you can apply the rules of those tiers as mentioned above. Also, if 2 people in the campaign want to have the same Dramatis Personae, I'm going to put a limit and say that only one of those Dramatis Personae can actually turn up. So if there is a mirror match between you, then only one of you will actually turn up with that Dramatis Personae. So you're going to have to roll off for that. And I think that incentivizes people not picking the same really good tier 0s or anything like that. So this will hopefully mean that everybody takes a different character. Then we move on to scenarios. What I like to do in my campaigns is actually handpick the scenarios that you may choose each round. So what I do here in the first phase, I will list lots and lots of different scenarios that you can choose from, but you cannot choose outside of these scenarios. The reason why I do this is because I do feel there's a lot of swing in some of the scenarios. Some of them just give you too much money. Some of them are very one-sided. What I like to do generally is have most of the scenarios that are a little bit more even Stevens in terms of the balance on attacker defender, things like that. It's still nice to have some fun fluffy ones in there. If you need to rescue a captive fighter, you can still do the rescue mission or public execution if you'd like, but I like to keep a limit on the amount of different types of scenarios that you can actually play, and also theme them to the actual narrative of the campaign too, and do stuff that actually fits with the vibe of the campaign. The last little section I've got here, and another special rule that I've taken from a White Dwarf magazine, is the resurrection protocol. So resurrection packages can be available for a gang only once per campaign at the arbitrator's discretion. So if your gang leader dies in the first game of the campaign, you may use one of these packages as long as the arbitrator, myself, agrees with the actual packages that you're using. It's got to be in line with the fluff of your gang. It's got to make sense from a story and a narrative perspective, but I think this is a nice way to take the edge off losing some of your best fighters in the game too. So that's basically the campaign document that I've got so far. What I also tend to do is do another document of house rules. Now, your house rules are going to be very different to my house rules, but they are a requirement just so that everybody is on the same page and there's no rules ambiguity, because Necromunda is such a dense game. Everybody has a different interpretation of rules as written or rules as intended. What I tend to do is clear that up in a document that just states this is the final thing. If you have any questions, ask your arbitrator about it, basically. But we're not going to go into any detail on the actual house rules, because again, that's probably another video. But I think overall, the way that I've designed this campaign, again, this is through trial and error and through using many different other types of campaign variants. I'm really, really excited about this one. I think the narrative, the fluff is there. I could go into more details on the short story, but I'll leave that for another time. But I think based on the feedback of my players in the last campaign that I ran, which was an Underhells campaign, by the way, things went really well. Everybody was very engaged, and I think this one is going to take things to a new level with some really cool new bits that I've drawn from several different rules, from Apocrypha Necromunda, from many different books that we're using here. It's not overcomplicated, but it has some real fun stuff in there that I'm really excited to use. And yeah, I can't wait to get started in the new year with this. Anyway, I hope this video was really helpful and informative, and hopefully gives you the confidence, if you're a new arbitrator, to just go out there and create your own campaign document with similar sort of ideas. Again, I think the most important things with running a campaign as an arbitrator really is communication and feedback. Constantly get feedback from your players. You could do it in a survey form if you like, or you could just ask them in Discord what they think. You know, was this a good decision? What could you do next time to make it slightly better? I think as long as you're taking on board that information and you're constantly evolving with the rules of Necromunda as they also evolve, then you'll always be running a successful campaign and your players will always be engaged. So yeah, I hope this was really fun and informative and gives you some great confidence to move forward with everything. And any questions, please do comment down below, or feel free to send me an email at wellywoodwargaming@gmail.com as well. Also, if you'd like a copy of this campaign document, I will be putting it on my Discord for my patrons, and I'll also be putting it on my Facebook group as well. So feel free to join the Facebook group under the Wellywood Wargaming community page there as well. Anyway, that's enough for now. I'll be back with another video real soon. Peace out.